to the video. We're going to be breaking down, we're going to be doing a behind the beat. This will be the second one of the series. This is called Watch Out. It's probably my favorite beat and my most successful beat. I'm just going to break it down for you, dive right into it, show you guys how I made it. Very minimal on the mixing. It was all pretty much just the fun part, the creating and making the melodies. I did use a lot of samples, but I got creative with them, chopped them up, did some filtering, some simple stuff like that. I'll show you guys what went down. I actually started with a chord progression. I found it's in F minor. I really enjoyed it. I didn't do much to it except I took out like this really harsh high end. Let me actually pull that up. We'll remove the filtering that I did and we'll just play the sample how I downloaded it. I'm gonna add on my filter. Ooh, leaves like this muddy part left. Not terribly exciting, right? And then what I did is I added this like filter, so that way like on these like half steps it adds like this whooshy kind of, it brings you in and out. It just adds a lot of energy to it. I'll play that so that you guys get an idea of what I mean. And so on. Following that, moving right along, we got this main melody. It's really prominent in the beat. It plays throughout the whole thing. Here it is. All I did was take off a little bit of that the low end on that so it didn't clash with the chord progression I already had. And then I have this open hi-hat. I know I said previously I like to use two open hi-hats so that way they play off of one another. In this situation I just used the one hi-hat. I pitched it up and down a little bit so that way it had that kind of dynamic going for it. The last part that I'm going to include for this intro is this riser. Just adds more energy into this, what's about to drop. Right. Moving forward, I think another important part of what makes this beat so unique is probably just kind of like this tough like street hip-hop vibe I was going for, and the way I accomplished that was with these like gunshot sounds. So it's the sound of like the gun cocking and then the gun shooting and then the rounds hitting the ground or the shells or whatever you want to call it. And that kind of adds like this sub rhythm. It sounds like this. And that's layered right over those open hi-hats. Let's see, what part do I want to show you next? I think the snare needs to come next. Now I apologize about this snare. It's not sounding as crisp as it does in the final. I don't know what's wrong with it, but for some reason it just sounds really thin when I play it back. Super thin, I don't know why. Then I'll throw in the kick as well. Right? Now that kick pattern is pretty simple. I'm not in love with it, but it works for what this beat is going for. And then notice like most of this stuff I didn't even touch on the EQs. I didn't do much to this beat at all. Moving forward, once again, we have these hi-hats. These are closed hi-hats. They added us like another sub rhythm, which I think works with, like, this is the part of the rhythm that the rapper will be listening to see like what kind of cadence to use. And then a subtle 808 before I even knew how to use distortion or anything like that. Just a simple 808 comes through. Just kind of adds to the layer of the kick. It gives it a little more body. I'm going to let this play through all the way to this next 808 part, which I actually sampled and then chopped up and arranged how I wanted. So it's just a bass part that comes in right here, and then it slowly fades out by removing the low end and leaving just the high frequency stuff to add into this build that comes through to get right back into the hook. And here it is. And then we're going to get that riser reintroduced with the snare, and will bring us into the hook. Right? And now I called this good, actually. I'm like, great, we got a beat. I'm going to throw this online. I'm going to sell it. I'm going to make $1 million. That didn't happen. It didn't gain a lot of traction. So I eventually, just like after a week or so, I took it down, made a couple tweaks, added just two more elements to it. And they're both like vocal samples that I kind of chopped up a little bit and played with. First one being this. This is the sample that a lot of people say they actually enjoy about this beat. I think that was here. Yeah. And what this was is I'm going to play how I downloaded it first. So I'm going to remove these effects. And I know I pitched this up an octave, so I'm going to bring that back down. Here's how the sample sounded when I downloaded it. And then up. Then with the effects. Subtle effects, but they do a lot. And then the way that sounds with the rest of the beat implemented into it. Gives you something else to just bob your head to. And then the very last thing I did was added another, this is part at the bottom here. Another vocal effect that I used during the rise. That way this part wasn't as entirely empty.